What is going on? Oh, let me start that again. Voice crack. What is going on, everybody? Nazdarachi here, coming at you again today with another 5-9 Gaming video production. Today we're going to be discussing a bit about Metroid, actually, with the announcement of Metroid Dread. It has actually caused a resurgence on the Nintendo Switch, or the Nintendo Online eShop, where I believe, what was it, Sunblade? Which two games specifically had risen to the top?
Yeah, Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion are at the top of the Nintendo Wii U eShop right now. It's crazy.
Ah, the Wii U, okay. Because they haven't been ported over to Switch, so correct me there, right?
Right.
Okay. So people have been digging up old tech just to get their hands on some digital versions of these Metroid games post the announcement of Metroid Dread, which is the first, I guess, official new 2.5 or 2D Metroid game in, how many years, Sunblade?
I think it was 19 years.
Yeah, I was about to say 20, but I figured you'd have a more accurate description. But Sunblade's already kind of spoken up here. We are also joined today by Talon and Goresh, two other lifelong Metroid fans and players. I don't know if you guys wanted to quickly say hello as well.
What's going on, guys?
That was very, very well synced up. So I guess our main modus operandi of the day today is going to be going over kind of an amalgamation of where all four of us stand on a Metroid games tier list, going through the ages all the way back to the original that released on the Nintendo Entertainment System so many years ago. I guess, Sunblade, you're probably one of the most experienced. I don't want to actually attribute too much fandom to any one of y'all, but if one of you wants to guide the audience through how we're going to format this real quick, I can hand it over to, I guess, Sunblade here.
So, yeah, right now we are looking at a tier list from Tier Maker, and we will work ourselves up from D tier to S tier. So, yeah, why don't we start right away and don't waste any more time. So, D tier, I think it's pretty clear what game will be in there. Let's put Metroid Prime Federation Force in there right now.
Yeah, that's funny because I actually that game did not make D tier for me, so that's pretty generous.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I say we just move on. All right, C tier. Let's go.
Okay,
Well, we could talk about let's talk about for a little bit, because when
for the audience at least.
The funny thing about this game was this game got so much backlash when it was announced. I remember the trailer came out on YouTube, and it had like 90% dislike to like ratio or something like that, and it was like the meme of the internet when it came out. So it's kind of like indicative of their disconnect with the audience, I feel like, for Nintendo and the team working on the Metroid franchise, because I believe they were like actually thinking this would be a game that would be well received by the audiences, the audience for the Metroid games, and they literally could not be more wrong. So yeah.
I mean, you can tell that they just simply put the Metroid title on there to try and sell it, and then it was like, oh, we made a boo-boo.
I feel like this was in that age where they were trying to experiment with things, but instead of creating a new IP, they wanted to attach something memorable to it to potentially help boost the initial reaction to it, and then it just ended up backfiring right in their faces.
Yeah, this is also during the phase where people were sort of expecting them to announce either a Metroid Prime 4 or some like new 3D Metroid game, and instead we got this. So I think that's that amplified the dissatisfaction that people had when they saw this for the first time.
Yeah, what I will say is this, like, I absolutely agree with Goresh, and that's why I personally have it in D tier as well, because I absolutely do not care. I do not care about this game, but I'll say that this is actually not a terrible game. It feels like a Metroid Prime of some sort, but you're not controlling Samus, you're playing those tiny little men from the Galactic Federation. Like, what is this, man? I don't want this. I want a real Metroid game.
Yeah,
but
it's like Halo ODST, like you're not playing as the Master
right.
Chief, you're just playing as some side character, and it really doesn't affect the plot in any meaningful way, or like the lore of the universe. So
even though I have to say that the ending of Metroid Prime Federation Force, the post-credits ending, is very interesting and very important for Metroid Prime 4.
All right, shall we move on to C tier then?
Yes.
I think we're good to move on, yeah.
What do you guys think, actually, of the C tier?
I don't know about you guys, but I definitely want to put Metroid Prime Pinball there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know,
Justified,
just for there. I would definitely put Metroid Other M personally, in my opinion, for something like
That's
this.
what I was gonna say. Yep,
And then from there, I guess I would say the original Metroid.
Oh no, you gotta give that one more credit than that. It started everything. I would at least put that in B or A.
Have you
like,
have you
still
gone back
holds
and
up.
actually played it though? Like actually played it in terms of like everything from mechanics to
It's
story to.
It's archaic, but it still holds up for like what it's trying to be. Like
All right,
it wasn't
Sunblade,
some big
Goresh,
bloated
you guys have to be
experience.
you got to be the tiebreakers. What do you think? Let's put it back
Okay,
down.
so
I have
okay,
the
Goresh,
OG,
go first. Go first.
I have the OG Metroid in B. I think it's
In
definitely
B?
showing its age. Like, not you can't argue against that, but it's still fun. Like, it's a fun game to
Okay.
play with. One thing I will say about Metroid Pinball is it's actually not a bad game. It's just how can you compare a pinball game to like Metroid Prime? You can't.
Right.
That's why it's in C tier.
Exactly. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, that was kind of. They did the same thing with Sonic too. They made like a Sonic pinball game, and I remember that on Sega Genesis. I would actually rent that on Blockbuster back in the day. But like you said, they're actually mechanically fun pinball games with cool little bonus stuff that adds to the value of just playing like standard pinball. But yeah, I mean it's pinball at the end of the day. It's just kind of like a side game. That would be like a mobile game these days if it came out. It would be
Yeah.
like the Diablo Immortal. Hey, while you're waiting for Prime 4, we got this little pinball game for you to try out in the meantime. That's what that game would be these days.
Yep.
Yep.
What I will say about Metroid, the original is, Nas and Goresh are right. I agree, but it gets completely invalidated by Zero Mission. And that's why you can make the argument that it isn't C tier, but it's actually a good game and it started it all. So, yeah, I completely agree with Metroid in B tier. And about Metroid Prime Pinball, yes, it's a great game, and yeah, it feels like Metroid Prime of some sort because you have to encounter all of the bosses, like kill them with the ball. But what really pissed me off about the game, that the space between the two screens of the Nintendo DS is part of the game as well. So, yeah, I don't know what they thought. So the ball is invisible like for like a fraction of a second, and
Yeah.
You don't know where it will end up if it's there. So yeah, that annoys me. So I think the position is justified, and yeah, Goresh made a very good point. You cannot compare it to the other games.
Yep. Exactly.
But
And,
yeah, let's talk about Other M.
Just Other M, man. I mean, Goresh might try to defend this a little bit more than the rest of us, but Other M, unfortunately, just I see what they were trying to go for when it came to this game, but it fell flat in a lot of areas for me personally.
I had really high hopes for it because it was made by Team Ninja, the same
Yeah,
people that
made
made
by
like
Team
Ninja
Ninja.
Gaiden, which Ninja Gaiden games, while difficult, are phenomenal games, but it just didn't really translate over. It kind of, like you said, it fell flat when
Yeah,
the final product
down,
was
the whole
delivered.
down thumbs thing she kept doing every single scene.
So here's my thing, right? Is this game like one of the better Metroid games? Definitely not, right? You can't compare. Again, you can't really compare Other M to like Metroid Prime, Metroid Fusions. It's just not that level. But I feel like when you're thinking about like what tier to put this in, it was, in my opinion, enjoyable enough to warrant at least. Like, are we putting these in order, by the way, within each tier? So, like, is Metroid Pinball above Other M, or is this just like all in the same tier?
Oh no, it's just in this. It's
I
in
think
the tier.
that should matter when we get to like A and S,
Okay.
maybe,
Yes.
but not for the bottom ones.
Because on my personal list that I made myself, I have this in B tier, but it's like the bottom of B tier for me, and I feel like that's a solid spot for this game. For me, the gameplay is actually enjoyable. I think they did a pretty good job mixing the third person with the first person elements of the game. It feels nice to play with. The story has its issues, which I feel like is a huge reason why people didn't like it. But in terms of like the gameplay and the overall feel of the game, I think it's actually pretty fun, and I had a really fun time playing the game. So I think when you compare this to like Metroid Prime Pinball or Metroid Pinball, it's like this being in the same tier of Metroid Pinball, it seems a little weird to me.
All right. So next game then on our list is going to be Metroid Samus Returns for the Game Boy.
I was actually gonna say that Metroid 2, but I would put it in B because it's arguably a
No
very
way.
similar. You don't think so? The
Leave it in
bottom
C
of
tier.
B?
No, leave it in C tier. No, Nas, no.
I mean, I
Leave
know
it
it's
in
been
C tier.
remade, but man, I enjoyed that on road trips when I was a little kid.
That sounds like nostalgia talking then.
If you're gonna put it in the top of C, I mean, it's either the bottom of B or the top of C. That's where I
Fine.
was.
Yeah,
How do
I
we
can
do- how do we
agree
do
with
that?
top of C. Yeah, But again, like Metroid for the NES, it gets completely invalidated by Metroid Samus Returns for the 3DS, or even the another Metroid 2 remake, the fan-made one. It's so obscure that like the soundtrack is weird, everything looks the same. I think Sakamoto wasn't even involved with this game, and yeah, it has aged a lot. It doesn't have a map. Granted, the NES one doesn't have it either, but because everything looks the same, you really, really, really need it, and it's so weird to play it. But I had a really good time with it as well. But now that Samus Returns for 3DS is out, like I cannot have it in B tier. I'm sorry.
I can concede based on just that a superior version of the same thing exists that hasn't been tampered with, you know, like how a lot of remakes get tampered with.
Alrighty, Goresh, anything to say on that, or are you agreeing with that? That's placement.
I generally agree. The game was fine, nothing special, but it wasn't like god awful or anything.
Okay.
It gets extra nostalgia points for me because of the plot tie-ins with my favorite, which is Super Metroid, but I can concede because it has been remade, so.
All right, how about we go on to something that was definitely done, I think, within the praise that was the Prime series when it came back out on the GameCube. But we're, of course, talking about Metroid Prime Hunters. I believe this was the very first Metroid game to come out after Prime 2. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And a lot of people, I remember, were definitely hyped about this because of how they were approaching the gameplay and the fact that it was still in the first-person view that the Prime series had, you know, kind of started. Where would you guys like to place this one in terms of Metroid Prime Hunters?
I would probably put it in like the mid to top of B. I mean, I was working at GameStop when this game came out, so I actually remember like checking it out, and it was actually a pretty faithful experience for like an on-the-go type of experience, and it even had like some online deathmatch modes and stuff, which was pretty neat. It's just the only thing that really turned me off was the stylus controls were probably not the best, comparatively speaking, to controls from some of the other entries in the series. It definitely threw me off a little bit, having to like tap on the screen and do different motions to do different like actions. So especially in this hemisphere of an online PvP deathmatch kind of mode, some of those clunky controls were definitely a little bit hard to navigate, but I still think the experience overall was pretty fun.
Yeah, I agree. There's a little bit nostalgia talking here from me, but yeah, the online mode from Metroid Prime Hunters is great. We actually in Germany had a big competitive scene for this game when it came out. The story, the single player campaign is alright. It's nothing super special, but it's enjoyable. But what really sells the game for me is the online multiplayer. It was awesome. Really, really good.
Yeah, for me, I have this game at the bottom of B. I have it below the OG Metroid game.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see it.
I can definitely agree with that. Okay. All right. So how about we go into another 3DS game, actually, or I guess I say another 3DS, as Metroid Prime Hunters was a DS game, but the 3DS one, which was this one right here, the next Metroid game. What were your guys' personal thoughts on this one?
So I guess I'm the only one who played it?
Yeah, I actually did not play this game.
I'm having trouble reading the logo. It's really small. What is it? Which one is it?
It's Metroid Samus Returns for the Nintendo 3DS, the official remake of Metroid 2.
Well, I actually think I did play this, perhaps not on the original hardware, but again, Metroid 2 was one of my favorites, so I would give this a bottom of A to top of B.
Okay.
Leaning towards bottom of A. I don't know if
well, I personally would put it in the top of B, and yeah, I think it's great. When Nintendo announced it back in the day, like it was crazy. Nobody thought that this would happen, and Metroid 2 really, really needed a remake. And yeah, Mercury Steam took it upon themselves to recreate this game. They were responsible for the Castlevania Lords of Shadow series, and I really, really enjoyed it. It captures like everything important about the Metroid series, and I loved it.
it is almost just a direct port with just, you know, modernized visuals for the time version of a Game Boy game. So it was much simpler in scope compared to
they added
entries.
a lot of stuff in there. I have to say that the final boss fight is very interesting, and yeah, they added some stuff. I have to give them that.
All right, let's get on to the real games now.
All right, time for the real games, folks. Here. All right, so first one then we're gonna go with is: do we want to go Super Metroid. Why don't we go into this?
I would
Oh,
say
wow.
Super Metroid is an S for me. So too soon.
I have Metroid Prime 2 next on my list.
Metroid Prime 2 next. All right, why don't we go with Metroid Prime 2 then? Which I think it's definitely debatable amongst a lot of fans. I personally put Metroid Prime in somewhere in the A rank for me personally. I actually really love the game. I know it gets flack for its, kind of lackluster planet that you're on and everything, but there's a lot of different areas that you have in this area. I love the variety of the weapons going between the dark and the light world and everything, and I personally just loved it. Where do you guys personally put it though?
I didn't have a GameCube, so it took me a lot longer to play some of the 3D ones, and they didn't have as identifiable of a story for me because they definitely kind of start going into non-Metroid territory. So I can't give as reliable of an answer on this one as probably Sunblade or Goresh could.
I think
Goresh,
for
what do you
me,
think?
it's just like because you're comparing Metroid Prime 2 to 1, and I don't think it holds to. I don't think it holds to 1. So that's why I have this in A instead of S, and I have it at the bottom of A. I ranked the tiers that I made on my list, like each game within each tier against each other. I have this at the bottom of A. So I have two in total. I have 3 games in A. This is the bottom of A. So
Okay. How about you, Sunblade?
So I would say that Metroid Prime 2 Echoes is definitely underappreciated. I wouldn't say underrated because the scores were pretty high. I can see that Retro Studios really try to improve Metroid Prime, the first game, and I really loved it. There are some aspects that are way better than Metroid Prime 1. For example, the boss fights in Metroid Prime 1, you have those really long boss fights with the same cycles every time, and they really improved it in 2. I love the landscapes in 2. The graphics were improved quite a bit. I would say the textures are way better. Yeah, I love everything about this game. I have it at the top of A, and yeah, definitely play this game. I know it's considered like a black sheep within the community a little bit, but yeah, it's so great, and it introduced the multiplayer mode, which was okay, but it was in there. I loved it.
It was fun for couch multiplayer.
Yeah,
just having
right.
fun. Kicking back,
Right.
relaxing. So. All right, why don't we go on to the next game then? Since we're talking about the Prime series real quick, why don't we go down to Metroid Prime 3 before we go into Metroid Prime, because I have a feeling we all know where that's going to land. Where would you guys put Metroid Prime 3?
I have that at the top of A for me.
Top of A. Okay, so
Yeah.
something like that then. Okay.
Yeah.
What's
how
your
about-
logistics?
you guys?
What's your logistics behind top of A for Prime 3?
I mean, I love Metroid Prime 3. It's just like when you're talking about S tier, I didn't want to like put in like 4 or 5 games in there. So I tried to limit myself to 3. I have 3 games in S, 3 games in A, which I think is fair. It's just like you're comparing like some of the best games ever against each other, and it's like some of them are gonna have to go in A tier eventually. But I have 3 games in S, and then this is unfortunately I think the 4th best Metroid game ever. So it ended up in A for me.
All right, Sunblade, how about you,
That's
man?
a statement. So I personally have it in B tier. I cannot decide if I would put it at the top or second best of B tier. I think it's a great game. Yeah, it's awesome. It's hard to find to something negative about it. The controls are awesome. The Nintendo Wii controls are really good. What annoys me about this game a little bit is the hyper mode. You just spam it all the time on normal difficulty. It's all about hyper mode, and yeah, at the time the game came out, like I wanted something new. It feels too similar to Prime 1 and 2 for me, and when it came out, the loading times were terrible. Like sometimes you're staring at the door for like 15-20 seconds, and that was annoying. So I would personally put it in B tier, but when Goresh says it's A tier, I cannot say anything about that. Like the game is great.
I think
I
for me,
think-
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I forgot all about the loading times, and I you just reminded me of that, and I definitely remember sitting there, like for every time I'm loading into a new map, just waiting for the loading time.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, the thing that like Sunblade said, it has amazing controls. Using the Wiimote, as gimmicky as it might sound, actually for Metroid Prime, that was like the game where it was just like, no, this actually works. Like this works. So it worked really well for that. I think my personal problems with the game were both the hyper mode And the fact that they teased bringing in these other hunters with you, and there was a really good chance for some story there, and then they get turned while you're asleep, and you have to kill them. Like that felt like a huge missed opportunity. Like maybe if a couple of them had turned, that could have been fine. But I remember when we first went up against the ice hunter guy, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, we're fighting him. He's corrupted and everything. And then I'm like, okay, is he all good now? But no, he's just dead. He's gone. It's just like, okay. And then get to the second one. Same thing happens. And then the third one, I was just like, okay, like, fine. What was the point of even bringing them in? You might as well just have had them be something else to be those bosses. Instead, it's like you introduce them with the potential of doing that, but then it was just like, okay, fine. So I think for me personally, I have it below Prime 2 like this, but again, we can debate on that.
Yeah, I personally would say the Prime 2 is superior, but that's just me.
I personally think so too.
I'm gonna have to pretty much go with y'all on that one because again, that was that was one that I did not play. I played Prime 1, some of 2. I did not get to 3.
All right, so then why don't we finish it up with the original Metroid Prime game? I think we all agree that it belongs up here in the old S territory.
Absolutely, S tier material.
Yeah.
I have this as the second best game in the Metroid series overall. So it's in S, but it's in number 2 for me.
All right. Well, regardless, though, it's in the S territory, so.
I know Sunblade loves this one. I like what they tried to do because this was like, in this age, this was, a little after compared to some of the other games like Castlevania, but this was when a lot of the 2D games transferred into a 3D interpretation. And I feel like in pretty much all areas, Prime holds up. The Metroid name and carries the standard over from 2D to 3D pretty dang well. And not only that, but it has an extremely robust speedrunning community, which I think has added extra value to the game. Over the years, it's helped, keep it even, more robust than what it would have been compared to, some of the other titles on the list we've covered that are good, but they don't really have that community behind them.
Oh, well, let me stop you right there. Like, basically every game, except Other M, maybe, and Federation Force, has a really solid speedrunning community. Especially like Super Metroid, Metroid Zero Mission, Metroid Fusion, like crazy.
Super Metroid, I was going to give the win to the most, having like the best speedrunning, like the biggest speedrunning community around it. But Prime is still, I would say it's ahead of some of the others. I'm not trying to, throw shade at the other ones. I just think that it has more eyes on it. It stood the test of time stronger than most of the others.
Right.
All right, so we all agree on Metroid Prime then. Well, we go on to the next one, which is Metroid Zero Mission. Where are you guys placing this one?
Yeah.
This is
I
going to
personally have this
be...
in A. This is personally going in A for me, but I'm not exactly sure on the placement.
This is the hardest one for me to rank personally out of all the games here.
I would put this at the bottom of S personally and give Fusions the top of A. Only because it's the most perfect, I guess, retelling of the original with the reworked story. That, because when the original was made, they didn't have any idea what it was going to grow into, right? But then after, this lore, this universe has been established, they went back and they treated the original. It is arguably a little bit too short, but it's on par with the Super Nintendo experience. I think the Game Boy Advance games, both of them rank right under Super Metroid for me, only because the Game Boy Advance has sometimes obnoxiously inferior sound capabilities. But outside of that, the experience playing them both is almost identical to the Super Nintendo experience. So I'd say bottom of S for Zero Mission and top of A for Fusions, but you could probably flip-flop those. It's very close.
So
I personally don't care. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, for me, I have this game in S. I have this at the bottom of S for me. There's 2 reasons why it's not above Prime. Number 1, it feels a little bit short to me. And I understand that it's supposed to be a retelling of the original game, right, Metroid. But the part that they added to it, and this is my second point to why it doesn't rank higher for me, is it feels like, at least to me, like that part that they added onto it where it's like Samus and like the whole Chozo area, I didn't really like that part. I just didn't feel like that really belonged in the game, if that makes sense. It didn't really mesh well with the first half of the game. And it wasn't even the first half of the game, it was the first like 75 to 80% of the game, right? But I wasn't really a fan of that part, and that's why I have it at the bottom of S. But I mean, bottom of S is still really good, so it was a great game.
So yeah, Zero Mission is a crazy game, especially for me as a speedrunner. Like the developers created this game with speedrunners in mind. Sequence breaking is a big deal. They serve it to you on a silver platter. Like in a speedrun, you defeat Ridley before Kraid, and the game gives you actually the tools to do that early on in the game. There's a time attack mode that gives out a code when you beat in time attack mode, so that indicates that Nintendo was originally planning to do like a speedrunning contest. And yeah, you can finish this game like in 40 minutes easily. Amazing game, great remake of the original. Like I have it at the top of A, but it can be at the bottom of S. It's amazing. Everybody has to play it. It's a must play, I think. Amazing.
So we're down to the final two then. We've got Super Metroid and Metroid Fusions. Just right now, where do you put them? Nas, where would you put them first? And then we'll actually put them in the tier list.
So for Metroid Fusions, we kind of just rubber banding off what I said about Zero Mission. I would put top of A for Fusions, but it could be interchangeable with Zero Mission, just depending on, I guess personal preference there. And Super Metroid to me is the pinnacle experience, the undefeated since the series ever came out, the best Metroid game to this day. I could still pick it up and play it, like Link to the Past. It's in my top 3 video games of all time that I've beaten more than 20 times easily. I love it. And it's just, the definitive Metroid experience to me.
All right, Goresh, where would you change them?
Yeah, I have them a little different. For me, I have Super Metroid in A tier, in between Metroid Prime 2 and 3. Great game. I don't know. I just feel like it's not as good as the games that I have in front of it. It's just that simple. And then for Fusions, I have Fusions as the number 1 game, top of S, above Prime. I feel like that's going to be very controversial, and people are not going to like that. But for me, I didn't have as much fun playing any other Metroid game as I did with Fusions, and that's pretty crazy to me because I think as a game, like as a creation, Metroid Prime definitely outclasses Fusions. But I just had more fun playing Fusions. I don't know.
What about it do you think? Like, was it the X or the alien that's following you, or like the stalking mechanics? What really gives you the most fun out of Fusions?
I don't know. It just feels like the progression system for me is the most satisfying out of that one, and I think I get the same feeling from Prime as well, which is why I have it so high. Like you feel like your character's getting stronger as you're going through the game, and that's something that I always value in a game. For Fusions, they always have the story there as well, which is something that you don't really see that much in other Metroid games, and I feel like that's another reason why I personally have Other M in B tier as opposed to where we have it right now in C tier, is because the story does add on to it. Like usually for Metroid games, they don't really spend too much time discussing like story at all. Usually they're just like, okay, here's your ship, you're landing on a planet, go kill everything, and that's sort of how the franchise is. But there's a few games on this list, Fusions included, where they do go into more story about, the background of how things worked. Like even with Zero Mission, we could talk about that as well. They have sort of like the quote-unquote Samus's background in the Chozo area and like the end of the game, but they don't really talk about anything. They just show you pictures and they don't even talk about it. So I feel like Fusions does a better job of explaining what's happening with the story. And for me, that just makes the game more complete, and that's why I have it as the best game here.
Okay. Sunblade, what do you got?
Okay, so I have to agree with all of you. Like Nas is saying that Super Metroid is the best Metroid of all time. Like basically everybody's saying that. And I can see that, but I have it in A tier as well. And that's only because I never played it when it came out. And yeah, don't kill me when I say this. I personally think that it has aged a bit. Like when you have to select the missiles, you have to press on select, and then you can only shoot missiles. That's one thing. For me personally, Samus feels a little bit clunky when she jumps and stuff. And the game like Metroid Fusion has a lot of sentimental value to me. So for me, it is the best Metroid of all time. But if you tell me like that Super Metroid is better, I cannot argue against that. Because when I was little, Metroid Fusion was the first game that I bought ever from a store, and it introduced me to the series. So it has a special place in my heart. I love all of the games, like Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion, all great. If you tell me they're both in S, that's fine. I personally have it in A, Super Metroid, and Metroid Fusion in S with Metroid Prime. Yeah, amazing. amazing.
Why
games.
don't, for the official tier list, why don't you kick it up right behind Metroid Prime and just make me feel a little bit better?
All right.
I can see that, yeah. It has a legendary status, Super Metroid. So, and the speedrunning community is kind of esports. So,
I can.
Yeah,
I
that's-
can definitely
I
agree
think
with this list. I can definitely agree
The
with this.
biggest esports run is definitely Super Metroid, but the other ones still have huge communities. But that one's just wow.
Well, there we go, guys. That is our official tier list from us at 5-9 Gaming when it comes to the Metroid games. Let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you plan on picking up the brand new Metroid Dread when it comes out, which I believe is October? I'm blanking
8th.
on the day. Sunblade?
8th, October 8th.
October 8th. That is not that far away. I know it's the end of June right now, but time, as you know, waits for nobody, and it's going to be here very, very soon. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Now, if we can just get a Metroid Prime Trilogy remake on the Switch, I'll be happy. I don't care what their
It will
excuses
happen.
are. I want it to
100%.
happen.
Hopefully,
I want to happen.
Dread is in that S tier as well, because that would be
I hope
great.
so too.
Yeah.
I have very high hopes for it. I want it to be there as well. So
I want to keep my expectations in check, but it being the first, 2.5D Metroid game in like 19 years, definitely the bar has been set very high by their previous entries. And I would also love you, the viewers, down in the comments to let us know if you agree or disagree with this list and where, you'd place your most favorite Metroid game. Like, which one is it for you guys?
Let us know if you want to see us play any of these games too on the Twitch.
yeah, we will definitely. Well, we'll definitely be playing some of these games the closer it comes to release, and absolutely we'll be covering it for a review and everything. We'll be streaming it on Twitch when Dread comes out. It's I'm looking forward to it. It's been a long time since I've played a good Metroid game that's new, and I'm just like, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm
and
personally
specifically, let us know if you want to see Sunblade playing Federation Force.
God. It's a co-op game. I need 3 other people for that. So Goresh, why don't you join me?
Yeah, it could just be us 4. We could all suffer together.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's gonna be it for the video, though. Unless any of you guys have anything else to say.
No, just if you enjoy the content, hit that like button. If you're new around here, consider subscribing so we can catch you on all of our future uploads, both Metroid and non-Metroid content. We'd love to see you guys again on future videos. And that's probably about it for me.
And until next time, everyone, I've been Talon. This has been Sunblade, Nas, and Goresh. Until next time, everyone, we will see you all in the next one.